Hey everybody, Hunter back again from Showtime Studios. Going to do something a little bit different today. I got a comment from somebody on one of my videos, and he asked me if I made a mistake and said that I actually sprayed a different material than what I showed on the video. And before we get into this, this is David, and I'm not sure what your last name is. I didn't write it down. It starts with a C. But we'll just say David C. How's that? In any way, shape, or form, this has nothing to do with being arrogant or being a smartass or anything like that. It seems that you're having a problem on your end of not being able to spray tamiya paints, the acrylic paints, straight out of the bottle. And he left me a comment that said that I might have made a mistake when I said I sprayed it straight out of the bottle. And that was actually on the, let me pick it up here real quick. It was actually on this radiator assembly for the build tutorial that we're doing. And that radiator assembly was sprayed with X18 semi-gloss black, straight out of the bottle, no reducer, no thinner. Now, on that particular color, I normally do not thin it. Some colors I do thin. It just depends on the color. And I'm looking up here at my selection of paints, and I'm trying to find one that I actually do thin out a little bit to spray through the airbrush. The wooden deck tan is one of them that I do thin down a little bit. It seems to have a little bit heavier of a body to it, so I tend to thin that. And there's a couple others I'm not real sure, but when it comes to the X18, which is the semi-gloss black, I do not thin it. So what we're going to do here is I have all the materials laid out in front of all the viewers out there to show that you can spray X18 Tamiya acrylic paint straight out of this bottle through an airbrush. David also mentioned that he was using a different type of airbrush than me. This is the Grex Tritium Series airbrush. Of course, everybody that watches my channel that's been a subscriber of mine knows that I swear by these airbrushes. I use it on just about everything that I do. I have a whole line of airbrushes, but this is my go-to. This is one that stays hooked to the compressor 95% of the time. So this is the Grex Tritium Series TG3 is what it was either TG3 or TG5 when I ordered it. And like I said in another video, the 3 and the 5 just means what size needle is in this particular airbrush. So if you order like a TG3, you're going to get a 0.3 or a number 3 needle. If you order a TG5, you're going to get a number 5 needle. But you can swap any of the needles that you want to inside of this housing. If you want to put a number 7 in here, you can. If you want to put a number 2 in it, you can. You just have to change the nozzle assembly right here on the front of the airbrush. You have to change that for the matching needle. And then you just screw your cap back on and you're good to go. So I want to try to put to rest any fears out there of, people that think I'm giving them all, trying to think of the right word here, inaccurate information or false information or anything like that. What I show in my videos is basically the way that I do things here at the bench. There's some things that I don't put in videos because I'm trying to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, professional. When I start shooting a video, and I'm just more free to do things when I'm not shooting a video and working on my models. So I'm a little uptight sometimes, I guess, when I'm going through the steps. But this time around, we're going to do it start to finish here. On the way home today, I stopped by the hobby shop. I went ahead because I was getting low on X18. I went ahead and picked up a brand new. This is the 23 milliliter. This is the bigger bottle than what I normally use. This is a small bottle here. These are the little bit bigger bottles. And he didn't have any of the small bottles, so I had to get these, but I'm going to use it anyway. So we'll hold it up here. You can see that it's the semi-gloss black X18 from Tamiya. This bottle is straight off the shelf, has not been opened. Now, there's no way, shape, or form that I can prove that, but everybody's got to take my word for it. This has not been opened up. This came, this just came in about probably 45 minutes ago from the hobby shop. And I also picked up a bottle of the XF1, which is the flat black, while I was in there because I was getting low on that. So we're going to put that one up on the shelf. The next thing is when I get one of these bottles brand new, I always use the back end of one of my brushes over here to stir it up real good. So that's why that's laying here. And I have just a sleeper bed out of one of my truck kits that I just grabbed off the parts tree there real quick. That's what we're going to spray the X18 on. Of course, you can see the compressor sitting here. I have it set on right above 20 pounds with it sitting here at rest. But if you watch the needle, when I pull the trigger on the airbrush, you'll see the needle drop down. When it drops down, it's going to roughly about 15 to 16 psi. So we're going to pull the trigger, and you can see the needle drop down and see it steady out there. That's at about right around 15 pounds of pressure. Now, if I let off the trigger, I'm holding it steady. As you can see, if I let off, you'll see the needle shoot back up to about 20 psi. And it's working its way up there now. And we are at, should be at 20 psi. I'm looking at it. Yes, we are. We're at 20 psi. So with the trigger pulled, we're dropping down to about 15 to 16, right around in that range. And we're going back up to 20, just sitting here at rest. So I'm not going to touch this from this point. That's why I've got it sitting here in the camera view. And the regulator and everything's already set. We're not going to bother that. So anybody that's kind of hesitant on whether I'm giving the right information or whatever, keep an eye on this compressor, because I'm not going to touch it as far as any settings on the air. Now, that's not always to say that to get something to spray that you may not need to bump this pressure up a little bit. You may need to bump it down a little bit. If it's, doing something that you don't want it to do, you can either go up or down with the pressure. There's nothing set in stone that says that you have to spray any type of paint at any certain pressure. There's a lot of variables in that. One of the variables is connected to this airbrush right now. This is my little flex cord. It's, one that is supplied with a lot of the cheaper airbrushes and stuff like that. It's coiled. I can use this hose compared to my regular Grex hose, which is a lot bigger diameter, and it will change the spray characteristics of this airbrush. It just depends on, what type of setup that you have. And if you're not using exactly what I'm using here, your results may not come out exactly the same with the same settings. You may have to kind of tweak it around. So instead of your compressor being at 20, for some reason or another, you may be set at 15 at rest, or you could be set at 25 at rest to, get things to spray and come out the same way that I'm doing it with this setup. So hopefully everybody understands that part of it. Like I say, there's variables right here. The length of this hose is a variable, especially when you're using one of these small compressors like this. And I've went back to them. I never thought I would use them, but they work great for me. I swear by them now, and I will not use a bigger, noisy compressor in this hobby room again. So if this one blows up, I would go right back out and buy another one just like it. So going back to the airbrush itself, like I say, this is the Grex Tritium series, and as you can see, there is nothing in the cup. See if it'll zoom in on that. I don't know if it'll zoom in on that or not. There we go. There's nothing in the cup, nothing in there. And just to let everybody know that I am using a number 3 needle. If you go through the Grex book, you will notice at the identification on a Grex needle is at the back of it. And I'm trying to get this in focus here, guys. Bear with me a minute. I'm trying to get it where we can see those marks on the back of that needle, just to let everybody know that I'm saying this is a 3 needle, and that's exactly what it is. Hang on a second. We're having a problem here. We're going to get this thing zoomed in here. One way or the other, we're going to get it. There we go. If you look at the back of that needle where it's sticking out past the lock ferrule there, you can tell that it has 3 notches on it. That is a number 3 needle. If you go on the Grex website, you will know that a number 3 nozzle or a number 3 cap in here, this piece right back here is your nozzle. The number 3 does not have a line on it, and there is no line on the front of that nozzle. This is a number 3 needle and a number 3 nozzle. Okay, so now we're just going to put the back of the airbrush on, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this airbrush all the way down. This is all the way in, so when I try to pull the trigger back, the only thing I get is air. It's not moving any paint at all at this point to start out with. So we're going to lay that right over here. Of course, I have the cap laying here for it. We're going to lay the airbrush right there. I'm not going to do anything to the airbrush. We're going to go ahead and open up this Tamiya X18 for the first time, straight from the hobby shop. Let's see if I can get the cap off of it. Oh yeah, there we go. And we'll open this up. I'm going to hold it up here a little bit closer. You can see that I just opened that bottle up. It's brand new from the hobby shop. We're going to go ahead and take the back side of the brush and we're going to stir it. And you can see the gloopiness hanging off trying to drip off of the brush here. It's a whole bunch of gloopiness. There you go. That's the solids that's down in the bottom of the bottle. That's what we're after with the back of this brush. So we're going to stir that around real good. And I mean, you can use a regular paint stirrer on this, one of the little battery operated ones, or you can use a toothpick or anything like that. I just prefer to use the back of just a regular brush to stir everything up. And when I stir up the paint, I just pull the brush back up out of there and see if there's any solids left on the bottom of it. And you want to move the brush all around the bottom of the bottle and make sure that you get all the solids up into the paint. And when you can pull the airbrush out and all the paint does is drip off of it, you're pretty good at this step right here. So then what I'm going to do is get the excess off of the brush. And then I'm going to take our towel that we got over here, and I'm just going to wipe the end of the brush off there just to clean that up. I don't want to put that back over there and have a mess. I've done it before. So now the next thing that I do whenever I start out one of these new bottles like this is I will put the cap back on it, and I will go ahead and shake that up. And that will get the solids and everything that you've already kind of got up into the thinners that's in this. It will mix them all up and get it real good. Now you could also do this with a mechanical shaker. Some people have the little shakers, hobby mount, or what do they call them? Bench top shakers or something like that. I've seen them before. One of my friends has one of them. You can use that or you can shake it by hand. So there we go. I've got it all shook up now. We're going to take the cap back off of it again. And we're going to set that down. Now, the one thing I need to grab here, and let me see if I have one on the bench. If not, I may have to get up and go get one. Since this is a new bottle of paint and I don't want to get stuff all down the side of it, I need to get a pipette. Hang on just a second. Everything's sitting right there. I'll be right back. Let me get a pipette. Okay, for some reason or another, I cannot find a pipette. I just had some out here the other day, and now I cannot find them anywhere. So I guess we're going to have to do it the other way for time's sake in this video. So we're going to go for it. We're just going to dump this, little bit of this into the Grex airbrush. And we're going to try not to make a mess out of it. Okay, there we go. We got a little bit in there. Actually, we got a whole lot in there, to tell you the truth. But that'll work for the video. Now, you can see I didn't add anything into that. Came straight out of that bottle, straight from the hobby shop. We're going to put the cap on it. That thing's sealed down. I'm going to wipe the top of the little bit I got on the side of the gun there off. And I'm not even going to tighten this down because, well, here we go. We'll do it this way. I'll tighten this down, set it over here to the side. Now, if you remember, I said on the airbrush, I tightened up the back of the nozzle there all the way so no paint will come out. I've got airflow, but I have no paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the screw a little bit. If you look right here in front of the airbrush, you should see a black dot start to form. We're just going to turn it out there a little bit. There we go. And I'll kind of adjust it a little bit to where I need it, get my paint flow the right way. As you can see, I have not touched my compressor. And there we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that pattern. Here we go. We're going to spray it onto this this part that came out of a truck kit. We're going to make a couple passes here with it. As you can see, it is spraying out. It's starting to turn black. Spray a little bit on there. And at this point in time, you could, vary your paint flow if you wanted to. And what I mean by that is you can come back here and you can turn this a little bit and put a little bit more paint down. You can actually do another little trick, and this is where I'm going to touch the compressor just to show you another trick. If you're having a problem spraying non-thinned paint, reach over here on your regulator and turn it up a little bit. Right now we went up to, you can see the needle moving up there. We are at about not quite 30 pounds. We'll give that a whirl. Now you will see a lot more paint come out of there and cover the surface a whole lot better at 30 pounds. Now, the reason why I do not use 30 pounds at the bench is, for one thing, through a Grex airbrush, I do not need to do it, but I don't like using a higher air pressure at the bench because it does kick out a lot of overspray. So what I want to do is I want to turn this back down, and I want to go back down to 20 PSI. With the trigger pulled, I want to be at about 15, and that's where I'm at. You can see the paint spraying out here. We'll go ahead and do another coat. Let's do a coat across the top right here. And you can see the compressor walking around here because it's vibrating on the bench. But there we go. We just sprayed Tamiya semi-gloss black straight out of the bottle, no thinner, through a Grex airbrush with a number 3 needle in it. And I'm going to set that down now. We'll hold the part up here. See if we can get a somewhat decent view of it. There's the part sprayed. And it's dry now. You'll see light and dark spots in it. Some of it's dry, some of it's not. There you go. You can spray non-thinned Tamiya through an airbrush. Can you spray it through your particular airbrush? Whoever's out there. David, you said that you had a different type of airbrush than I have. Maybe the airbrush is the reason why you can't do it. Maybe the compressor is the reason why you can't do it. Or you have your pressure set a little bit too low. It could be just the makeup of the airbrush. I have a one of the cheaper master airbrushes, the G79 series. And if I try to spray a lot of the paints that I spray through this Grex, I cannot spray it through a master airbrush. So, like I say, again, guys, I'm not trying to be a smart ass, a know-it-all, or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to show people that, if I tell you I'm doing something on camera in a tutorial or whatever, that's what I'm doing. And this right here proves it. I didn't pan out in any way, shape, or form. I did everything right in front of you. And we're getting this to dry up a little bit now. I'll go ahead and hold it up here again. You can see how that came out. Nice semi-gloss finish to it. No problem. I do not, I've been accused before of keeping secrets and things like that. That's not true. Anybody that needs a helping hand, wants to know how to do something, I will be more than glad to show you the way that I do it with my experience and with my equipment. But I cannot guarantee you that if your airbrush is not a Grex Tritium series and you're not using this hose and you're not using this compressor, that all of it's going to work. I'm sure I could probably come to your hobby room and sit down with your equipment, and within a couple of minutes, spray the paint directly out of the bottle and have no issues with it. But it just takes experience, it takes practice, and knowing your equipment. I'm not a person that changes, especially hard items a lot. And what I consider a hard item is, the compressor. I've had good luck with this little compressor. I will go back to this style until they're no longer available, and then I'll try something else and learn all the ins and outs of it. This airbrush, this is one of my, this is my go-to airbrush. I love it. It does everything that I want it to do except for very, very fine detail work. And then that's when I use my Awada Custom Series or my Harder Steinbeck. One of those airbrushes I'll use for real micro work. But this airbrush right here it's a mule. It does everything that I ask it to do. Will that work for everybody? No, it will not, until you sit down with this airbrush and this airbrush only and learn how it sprays enamels, how it sprays lacquers, how it sprays acrylics, what thinning properties you need, what paints you can spray without thinning. There is so many variables in this hobby that I can't even begin to explain a lot of the things that you need to look for. But hopefully this video will not only show some guys, but also prove to some people that, when I tell you I'm spraying a certain thing out of the gun or I'm using a certain product, please believe me, I am doing it. And I really hated to have to do this video, but David sounded like he was having some problems with a product that I know that you can spray directly out of the bottle. So that's one of the main reasons I did the video, and to hopefully give him some pointers here on things to look for to make sure that he can do it. So David, this video was pretty much for you, and give it a shot. Try some different things. Try your air pressure setting. Don't fall for that thing that you have to have this air pressure set on a certain number. That's a bunch of crap. You don't need that. You need that air pressure set where what comes out of the tip of this gun is laying down the way that you want it to lay down. Now, if you do all that and your gun still can't spray it, put a little bit of thinner in this. I'll thin this down with one of two things. I will use either 91% rubbing alcohol, or I will use lacquer thinner. It depends. A lot of times, if I'm spraying something that I want to come out like this semi-gloss black, if I want it to come out just a little bit flatter but not flat black, I kind of get a finish that's in between flat black and semi-gloss black by putting lacquer thinner in it. If I mix 91% rubbing alcohol in it, it tends to come out pretty much semi-gloss black. So, like I say, David, if you have any more issues or whatever not being able to spray this product, send me a private message. Let me know everything that you're working with, or maybe a picture or whatever, and I'll be more than glad to try to help you out to see if we can get you spraying this stuff without adding any thinners in it. But then again, sometimes you may want a little bit of thinner in your paints to make them flow better, to make them do what you want them to do. But you do not have to have them on Tamiya acrylics to make them come out and look, very decent. So that's all we've got for this video. Again, I want to thank everybody for all the support on the build tutorial, all the questions that come up. Again, David, thanks for the question. And this video was for you mainly, but for anybody else out there that thinks that I am giving false information, there it is. I did it right in front of you. And, that's that. That's all I can say about it. Not being, not trying to be better than somebody else. It's just my procedures. It's what I do, and it works. So that's about it. That's all we've got for this tutorial, video, whatever we want to call it. So until next time, this is Hunter from Showtime Studios, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.